Ever had some transit increases and you can't find where they're coming from? This is a very common use case. It's usually very easy to see, even with some basic analytics. But with core traffic analysis, I'll show you how to see this, drill down, and in some cases, if you want, create custom graphs so you can spot trends before they cost you lots of money. So in this case, the customer looked at core and said, hey, I'm seeing an increase of transit traffic. Now, it's a little hard to see here, but of course, as long as you have everything bucketed correctly, you can see it. So obviously a very common thing to do in traffic analysis is to find out which traffic is going over exchange, P&I, or transit, right? So when you look at just transit by itself, pretty easy to see, about 20 more gigs going over transit, which as a percentage is a pretty big increase, right? So something happened since August. What happened? So just making some guesses, I was like, well, beginning of the year, it's probably Apple, school districts and such. No, it is not. Next, I know he has a bunch of Fastly traffic, right? Again, I was just guessing. I said, Fastly traffic, I know you don't have P&I. It could be that. And I actually saw it went down until, again, you look at the connection type, actually, it went up. Still doesn't account for all of his overall traffic, but now that I have an example and I go, what really happened here is this autonomous system had an increase of its transit percentage. So how about I just plot transit percentage? Now, I can't plot that for all autonomous systems. Well, I could, but it would be a lot of noise. So instead, I'm just going to cut out the autonomous systems that never go above 2% transit, right? So if they don't go over 2% transit, I really don't care. And then I add like some bandwidth limitations so I'm not seeing like really, really small autonomous systems. And you'll see when I do that, the heavy hitters of normal autonomous systems come up, Akamai and so on. So first, to make sure the graph works, I looked and went, yes, when I look at Fastly, it used to only do 10% transit. Now it does a quarter, right? So 1/4 of Fastly's traffic to this customer is now going over his transit links and costing him more money, right? And so basically, I kind of looked around at other autonomous systems and said, nope. I mean, it's eating up some transit, but it hasn't changed really over time or only very slightly. So, no, it's not Akamai. That's not the problem. I checked on some other ones that kind of looked a little weird, and I went, well, I didn't see this before, but it's pretty spiky. Maybe that's not a lot, but I'll follow up with more investigation. And then I saw this Google, which looked nice, except for at the beginning, I didn't know if something happened. I'll investigate that some more. It looks like it came out of nowhere. Um, so basically, just by clicking all these and looking around, I tried to find ones that started recently in the past few months. And then what I did is I just made specialized graphs for those, just like I did for Apple and Fastly. Except now, given the help of my custom dashboard, I knew who to look at. So when I look at this, yes, this Edgevana, that's a decent amount of traffic to come from nowhere, especially that a lot of it is over transit, right? Now, when I look at Google, it's really hard to see with all this P&I traffic, which is great. Most of it's going over the P&I, but let's just exclude the P&I for a second. And it's not a lot of traffic, but it was going over Exchange before, and now he's just paying more. So if it's a simple little routing change he needs to do, that'll save him a couple gigs a day, right? And that matches up with the graph you see here. So if you have resolution, retention, and good bucketing of your data, you can spot trends. If you can customize your analytics, you can now do graphing, alerting on those trends. So now you can set up a system where you stop reacting months later after you see bills, but instead a few days after you see a network change. This is how you save money on your transit costs. I'm Toby Smith with Corero Network Security. I hope you enjoyed seeing how to turn analytics into cost savings using core traffic analysis.